Good afternoon.
From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2:30 newscast. I'm Kevin Pontius. Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke spoke today to discuss her frustrations with the province's appointing of a new administrator. The new administrator's task is to take over the police board and oversee a transition to a municipal police force.
I just want the residents of Surrey to have fair taxation policies. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our residents, that we are not seeing the kind of increases. I fully understand the frustration with the public. I absolutely am frustrated myself.
More than 30 farms in BC's Fraser Valley have tested positive for avian flu. Farmers throughout the Lower Mainland are struggling to keep up with the amount of birds testing positive for the bird flu. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency told CTV News that 5 million birds in British Columbia have either died or have been euthanized since the first case appeared in the province back in April of 2022. The federal government is raising concerns over plans by Nexstar Energy Incorporated. The Conservative leader wants to do a full investigation to find out how many temporary foreign workers are being brought in for this project.
I love South Korea. Wonderful country. But they don't fund jobs for Canadians, and we shouldn't fund jobs for their workers. Our money should fund our paychecks. Bring it home.
Rogers Communications and United Steelworkers have reached a tentative agreement that will end a strike of nearly 300 workers. Our reporter Nathan Maley has more.
After nearly 9 months of negotiations and 2.5 weeks of striking, Rogers technicians in Metro Vancouver are set to go back to work. Rogers employees and their union decided to strike after concerns about their job security following the Rogers and Shaw merger last spring. Jason Little, a United Steelworkers staff representative, said it was crucial to get a deal done before December.
Nobody wants to see their members out on the bricks, especially at this time of year, going into the holiday season.
Rogers workers are set to vote to ratify the agreement today, with a goal of returning to work on Wednesday. Nathan Maley, 1680, The Crow.
A serious car crash that took place in the early hours of the morning sent 3 people to hospital. 2 of them remain in critical condition. The accident took place near West 16th and Binning Road. Police are still investigating and have not concluded if the accident was caused by drugs or alcohol use. Over to international news now. The Israeli Defense Force has infiltrated the Gaza Strip and is trying to prove that reports that Hamas has been using the Shifa hospital as a military headquarters is in fact true. ABC's Patrick Reevil gives an update on the conditions of the hospital.
The situation in Gaza's hospitals is nightmarish. I think the world's focus has been on Al-Shifa Hospital, which is Gaza's largest. The IDF went in about 6 days ago. They say under Al-Shifa is a Hamas headquarters and that it is a hub for Hamas activity. And they've just released a video showing a drone flying into what they say is a Hamas tunnel in the grounds of the hospital. And they are basically saying they're finding more and more proof that there is indeed Hamas infrastructure under the hospital and that it is a headquarters.
An announcement made earlier today by the United Nations Environment Program released how much each country would need to slash emissions to make progress before 2030. Jennifer King with the Associated Press breaks it down.
In the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, countries agreed to try to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. Monday's emissions gap report from the United Nations Environment Program says to have a shot at that goal, nations will have to slash their emissions by 42% by the end of the decade.
The report shows that the emissions gap is more like an emissions canyon.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. The report calculates that the Earth is on a warming trend towards more like 2.7 to 2.9 degrees Celsius. The report sets the table for international climate talks at the UN Climate Change Conference known as COP28 in Dubai later this month. I'm Jennifer King.
That's all we have for today. I'm Kevin Pontius for 1680.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
We respectfully acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations.
Everybody on your toes.
Growing up, like native tournaments was like a big thing for my parents, and they're the ones that showed me how to play soccer.
As much as Penelope Sparrow is on track to reaching new levels of professional soccer, she does not forget where it all came from.
And they'd bring me around until it got to a point where I was 4 years old, and we put on a pair of cleats and started playing. And I'd be there right by their side, learning with them. And that's kind of where I started. And then it just kept going on. I got put in a couple leagues growing up, and I just grew to love it. I was about 13, and that's when I knew I truly loved the sport. Like, it was more than just kicking the ball, like you said. It was more of like a family, us together.
So to welcome you to our territory, which is known as UBC, which is known as Vancouver.
For Thompson Nelson, it's important for him to reflect on his roots while mentoring the next generation of Indigenous athletes.
It was just built into our family, and so from the time I could walk, my dad was throwing a soccer ball at me and just go out and have fun. And he was a traveling kind of traditional artist, merchant salesman, so we'd go to all the soccer tournaments across Vancouver Island, as well as over here on the mainland in the Indigenous circuit. So I just grew up around watching it, playing it, and just watching every aspect of it. And so I really fell in love with it, and every morning I'd go and just watch with him.
Both Thompson and Penelope are currently working with Hope and Health, coaching the younger generation at the UBC Thunderbird Stadium.
Hope and Health is a sport for social impact organization that works specifically with Indigenous children and youth and their communities to develop life and leadership skills. It's about creating a program that's accessible within Indigenous communities. As a result of colonization, programs haven't been accessible, nor have they been created that are culturally safe for Indigenous children and youth. So we wanted to close that gap. We really have been working on creating the pathway from those young, talented athletes that aspire to go pro or play to an elite level as high as they can go. When we had the opportunity to consider to take ownership over the League One BC Varsity FC team, it just made total sense that would allow us to create that piece, which is the semi-professional, high-performance level, so then we can work with our communities as young as 3, 5 as little champions, all the way through their journey to Natsama FC.
Varsity FC was run by UBC Athletics, but Hope and Health purchased the rights and has rebranded as Natsama FC. Perhaps due to a lack of representation, many Indigenous athletes struggle on their journeys, often giving up.
So we're on the Musqueam field, where I grew up to love soccer. I always feel safe here, comfortable. I know when I've had a long day or a hard day, I try to do other things like art, track, all the other sports, but soccer was always something that I couldn't live without. When they think of soccer, they don't think of us, and obviously that's very hard because growing up, that was my FIFA. Going to tournaments, watching it, it was my FIFA. Like, that was my World Cups. Watching them play, it was like other players I couldn't see in TV. And the kind of passion and like support we have, it should be noticed. You don't see any native players, obviously. And it was just a battle. It's just like, am I trying, like, am I doing enough? Am I gonna achieve anything? Like, I didn't see anybody like me. So it was obviously really tough. It's just like, am I there for nothing? Am I doing this all for nothing? Like, there's nobody, I had nobody to like look up to.
One significant kind of moment for me was in high school. I was about 14, and I wasn't, like I said, I was a late bloomer. I was a bit out of shape, I guess, plumper than some of the other boys. And we had these fitness tests to introduce us into the high performance leagues, like for example, like Natsama and like UVic, Union Upton University. And I failed this fitness test. I guess not failed, but I just didn't do well. So that was really significant for me because I was bullied for that, and I felt pretty bad. So then I did that for a year, and then I came back the next year and nobody recognized me. I slimmed out, I got better. People thought I was an exchange student until I said my name. And then I came back and did that same fitness test, and I was in the top 2. I got like level 12 or something. But I think one of the lowest points, it's not a low point, but something you just kind of live with was, like I said, my dad passed away when I was 7. And then he was one of my biggest role models. And I'm thankful for my uncle taking over and like raising me as one of his own too. But like not having that male figure to really be like, good job, son, or like, you know, like, saying like, good job, son, or like everybody had their dads there. And me, after I finished a game, I'd just look into the stands, and sometimes I'd have family, sometimes I wouldn't, and then it'd be like kind of like a little, you sit in the change room, you give yourself like a little self vibe, or like, and sometimes it's just nice to have that outer, I don't know, just a little nudge like, hey, you're doing well, just you're on the right path kind of thing. Because sometimes you just don't know, you get lost along the way, and sometimes you need that little push. But I'm grateful for everybody in my life and who have brought me and raised me to bring me to this opportunity. But in essence of barriers, like there definitely is barriers out there. And it can be a struggle, but you just gotta be proud, like don't fall into negativity. Like if somebody has something bad to say about you, just brush it off and just keep moving forward in a positive way. Because as an Indigenous youth, like we're representing our community, not just ourselves. Like it takes a village to raise a child. Like for me as an example, I had uncles, aunties, coaches, a plethora of people that like help support me. And it really shows like growth and development. And you're just there to represent your people to the best of your abilities and just make whoever proud and yourself proud, more importantly, and then just walk in a good way.
I was sitting in bed, not doing nothing, and then I got the call from Jesse. I was just amazed. It felt like my dreams were coming true. My journey was it felt like it was just a fresh start. Like, I was excited. I couldn't even think. I was speechless. When I was talking to him, I didn't even know what I said. I blacked out. Like, it was just, I was like, oh my God. Like, I already know what this is gonna bring, and I'm so excited. Like, I can't even express the emotions.
And when I found out, I was like, okay, this is something cool. This is a big step. Like, let's just go and take the plunge, see what happens. So I came here, and the group was very welcoming, and it was just nice to be in just such a high level. And right away, you could notice the jump. It was faster, people were smarter, the play was just intense. But I loved every minute of it, and I loved seeing if I can rise to the challenge. Oh, what a finish, all right. And when I got that call to come back for more tryouts, and then that final assessment that I made the squad, it was over the moon. I didn't really know how to like react. I was on the ferry trying not to like laugh out loud. I have this like big smirk because I was sitting next to people I didn't know, and I was like, I had to go outside and just like take a breath of fresh air. But it was just awesome, just because just for a moment of like, that's it. This is a big moment just to like prove Indigenous players have capabilities and opportunities to show talent, because there's a lot that fall through the cracks that just don't get that opportunity. And sometimes all you just need is that one, or even that one person that believes in you. And I'm hoping this platform of Natsuma, and even me just being here, will show other Indigenous youth and other players that you can do it. You just dedication, hard work, and lots of just faith, and just reaching out to like putting yourself out there, and not being afraid of like the racial barriers or like people doubting you that you can't do it.
For sure. Nice dribbling. Almost. We have them wide. We've been hidden for a long time, overlooked. We don't really get noticed like this, and such an opportunity like this, I can't hold back, express how I play, show how I play. Like, playing with like First Nations, it's a different game. Like,
To date, Notsamont FC has signed 11 Indigenous players across the men's and women's teams, including 5 Indigenous assistant coaches. Their inaugural season begins April 29th at Swangard Stadium.
One, two, three.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Trettanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, you're listening to 1680 The Crow. I'm Caitlin O, and here's your news to 3. Surrey's Mayor Brenda Locke says the city will mount a constitutional challenge to the province's decision to appoint an administrator to take over the police board and oversee the transition to a municipal police force.
I just want the residents of Surrey to have fair taxation policies. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our residents, that we are not seeing the kind of increases. I fully understand the frustration with the public. I absolutely am frustrated myself.
Locke made the announcement in a news conference this morning and says the city is filing an additional petition in court that will outline where they are moving to. This comes days after the province suspended the Surrey Police Board over its lack of action in transitioning to a civic police force. Various rallies and candlelight vigils are taking place today in Abbotsford, Burnaby, UBC, and the Vancouver Art Gallery to mark the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Many trans, non-binary people and allies are gathering to honor community members lost. A member of the organizing committee for the vigil taking place at the Art Gallery says her group is intentionally hosting a public event to raise awareness that trans people are still facing violence and some are being killed. Premier David Eby also released a statement this morning saying the province is recommitting to ending transphobia in the province. Rogers is set to get back around 300 technicians following the end of their strike. Our reporter Nathan Maley discusses the impact the lockout had on the workers.
After long and grueling negotiations that began back in February, Rogers and United Steelworkers, the union that represents the Rogers employees, reached a tentative agreement this weekend. Workers went on strike at the beginning of November, but are now set to vote on the agreement today with a hope to go back to work Wednesday. Jason Little, a United Steelworkers staff representative, says families of the workers were heavily impacted by the strike.
While their families were very supportive of this, nobody wants to struggle to make ends meet.
Little also noted that it was important to get this settled before the holiday season gets into full swing. Nathan Maley, 1680, The Crow.
We are now joined in studio by Nathan. So, Nathan, what were the last few days of the negotiations like?
Yeah, so Jason just told me that they were very long and very tiring. There was a lot of back and forth discussions between both sides to work out some of the finer details, but they were both very eager to get a deal done.
And how much of a toll did it take on the workers?
Yeah, it was really stressful for everyone involved, especially with it being really close to Christmas, a really financially troubling time. But they were also there was a lot of public support, whether it was people driving by and honking the horns or people walking by them and telling them what a great job they're doing. And that really meant a lot to the workers and to their families as well.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. Port Coquitlam is one of many transportation hubs and it is thriving. Now, City Council is consulting with residents on future ways to get around the city. Our Jerison Orashan discusses this with City Councillor Daryl Penner.
3 years ago, City Council did research on preparing its transportation system for the next 2 decades, and residents can now give their input on the findings. For a month until December 15th, residents can fill a survey which includes proposed projects to produce cost-effective and well-planned transport options. Daryl Penner is the council designate for public works and transportation matters.
You take all that information together and then try to meld that into, blend that into how can we achieve the needs and the wants of the community within the MTP.
Penner also says that reducing emissions in the city is always the goal when drafting the city's transportation plan. Jerison Orashan, 1680, The Crow.
And Jerison will have more with Councillor Daryl Penner on For the Record later today at 3:15. Tensions between dog owners and cyclists in Richmond is sparking new safety options. The City of Richmond is asking the public for feedback on an off-leash dog park in Steveston. This comes after receiving complaints and a petition about safety issues regarding dogs being in the way of cyclists on the trail. Residents will be asked to give their input for safety enhancements in the area. 2 open houses will be held to get public feedback. The first one will be next Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. at Richmond City Hall, and the second will be held at Bark Park on the first Saturday in December. A legal challenge to stop a social housing project in the Kitsilano area has been dismissed by the BC Supreme Court. This comes after the province passed Bill 26 in April, making it easier for the City of Vancouver to move forward with a 129-unit housing building at Arbutus and West 7th. The legislation is meant to streamline local government's development approval processes. Shortly after the bill was passed, the Kitsilano Coalition for Children and Family Safety Society requested a judicial review. The group claims the bill is unconstitutional and deprives Vancouver residents of the right to challenge the legality of the city's actions. Another case of avian flu is confirmed in BC. A poultry farm in Chilliwack has been added as the 6th facility in the Lower Mainland to be put under quarantine in the last several days. The growing list of facilities impacted by the avian flu in BC include flocks in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, Qualicum Beach, and parts of northern Vancouver Island and the Central Coast. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says nearly 5 million birds have had to be put down since the first case occurred in April last year. The province of BC has been the most heavily impacted by the virus in Canada. The federal government has created a new tourism growth program to support small businesses and nonprofit organizations to bring tourists to Canada. The grant is supported by a pool of $108 million in funding over the span of 3 years. 15% of this fund will be set aside for Indigenous tourism programs. Soraya Martinez-Ferrada, the Federal Minister of Tourism, says the tourism sector is the only sector that completely shut down during the pandemic. The program is aimed to help with the recovery of the Vancouver tourism sector. The government is aiming to increase the tourism industry's contribution to Canada's GDP by 2030. Experts say more caution is needed to protect the Canadian healthcare system against cyber attacks. Don Kelly from the Canadian Press has more.
An article in today's edition of the Canadian Medical Association Journal by doctors who are experts in the use of technology in healthcare says healthcare organizations should train staff to recognize phishing attempts and respond quickly so patient care is not interrupted. Cyber attacks steal personal data, down computer networks, and can close surgeries and other procedures, potentially costing millions if a ransom is paid out. The authors say about 16 separate cyber attacks have happened at health organizations across the country since 2015. Not all of them have been reported, though. Dawn Kelly, The Canadian Press.
And Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is set to present a fiscal update on the fall economic statement tomorrow. The focus is expected to be on housing, and the document will make billions of dollars in loans available for home builders and mark a fund for affordable housing. Strong winds are slamming BC Central and North Coast, causing power outages and potentially disrupting travel across those areas. Environment Canada warns winds gusts of 110 to 120 kilometers in northern Vancouver Island and Bella Bella and the Central Coast and the entire Central Coast are not expected to ease until tonight. Forecasters say conditions should improve by tomorrow, but say that power outages and dangerous road conditions may persist. And now on to sports news. Starting off locally, Burnaby's Kaylee Fratkin signs a one-year deal with PWHL Boston. The newly formed professional women's hockey league is still unnamed, but Fratkin is becoming a household name for women's hockey in Burnaby for the last 6 years. Boston was one of the 6 cities that won the bid to make up the first ever standing for the PWHL. Puck drops on the first PWHL season is set for some time in January, with 24 games scheduled. The goal is to start the second season in November of next year. The UBC Thunderbirds are headed to the Vanier Cup for the first time since 2015. They will be facing the same opponent they beat for the national championship, the Montreal Carabins. The Vanier Cup is Canada's National University Football Championship and will be played on November 25th at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. The Vancouver Canucks announced on social media today that they will be debuting new helmets in their game against the San Jose Sharks tonight. The team revealed 3 photos of the new helmet design, with the original glossy black finish changed to a matte version. The puck drops at 7 p.m. tonight as the Canucks take on the Sharks at Rogers Arena. The two teams have already played once this season, and the Canucks won that game with a score of 10-1. The Canadian women's goalball team is hunting for a spot in the 2024 Paralympic Games. Longtime national team member Amy Burke lets out a scream to begin each game and after every timeout or stoppage. The players all have visual impairments, making the goalball venue normally very quiet. The women's team is putting their opponent on notice as this year's Parapan Am Games in Santiago, Chile. Canada would qualify for 2024 Paralympic Games with Parapan Am gold medal. And the Montreal Alouettes are back home and celebrating after bringing home the Grey Cup. The players touched down at Mirabel Airport this morning, carrying the Grey Cup on home soil for the first time in 13 years. Alouettes head coach Jason Mass says the team came together and did Montreal and Quebec proud. The team will be celebrating in the next couple days with a victory parade Wednesday afternoon. The Philadelphia Eagles center Travis Kelce will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. It will be a Super Bowl rematch for Monday Night Football as the Kansas City Chiefs host the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia has an 8-1 record and is looking to win after losing 38-35 to Kansas City in the last season NFL championship game. And an NBA is hosting their first in-season tournament ever. It is Toronto Raptors' second game of the tournament. They look to get their first win to keep their hopes alive, and they are currently 0-1 after losing their first game to the Boston Celtics. In Burnaby, it's 10 degrees and partly cloudy currently. The sun will set at 4:25. That was your 3 p.m. news. I'm Caitlin No, and you're listening to 1680.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Jerison Rashun. The Lower Mainland has several transportation hubs, including Port Coquitlam. It is easy to get around the city with the commuter shuttles, bike lanes, and paths, and the Evergreen Line on the other side of town. City Council is consulting with residents on its draft master transportation plan for the next 2 decades. City Councilor Daryl Penner joins me to talk about it. Was e-scooters being allowed on the streets of Port Coquitlam part of the plan? So, apparently, how is transportation in the city right now?
Well, it's reasonable depending on the time. If you look, what I find fascinating is doesn't matter where you are in Metro Vancouver. If you think about being able to get from one point to another, and we don't have traffic, we can get around pretty easily. I know early morning I've gone to the airport and made it to the airport in like 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Rush hour, traffic plugs up a pile of cars. It takes hours sometimes. So we have, in our community, we have great road infrastructure connections, but when volume kind of plugs it up, that is the biggest issue.
Well, so I know now the city is currently doing a consultation on the draft master transportation plan, which will make sure that the transportation will be easy for like the next 2 decades. And so, what should residents do when they fill the survey to kind of share their thoughts on the future of transportation in Port Coquitlam?
Well, they should just do that. They should fill it out and go through the pieces. What will most likely happen with residents? So we've set this going out to residents, going out to businesses, and so residents will have a specific take on basically how does it affect them directly. That's usually most people comment in that respect. The trucking industry, we will have comments from them, and they will look at it, how it affects them specifically. And so you take all that information together and then try to meld that into, blend that into how can we achieve the needs and the wants of the community within the MTP.
Yeah, so in the little survey, they will probably see some like not only the background of the projects that will be possibly be built in the next 2 decades, as well as a link to the draft, and also a map of those, where those projects are and what are like some of those projects include.
So have you had a chance to look on the interactive map?
Oh, not yet.
Okay, because it's in the draft form right now. So this is like sort of the multi-layered, cadastral. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
System. Okay, so it's like that. It's using that kind of an idea. And what it does is that you'll look at it and it'll say for priority 1 roads or priority 1 trails, sidewalks. It's got a whole list of different types of infrastructure, and you can click on those. So when you open it up, at least as far as what we get, you open it up and basically it's kind of like every second one is clicked. But once you if you go on it and you just want to know, okay, where are all of the new sidewalks going, because that quite often has a great effect on residents. So you click on that, it'll show where the new sidewalks are proposed, and then within that box, it has an arrow to the right. You push on that and it'll tell you where it's coming from. It'll give you a little bit of a synopsis of that exact project. So it's an incredibly detailed, I think very well thought out document.
Oh, very in depth, yeah. So let's see. And then well, in some municipalities in the province, e-scooters are currently allowed to be used, but could allowing them on Coquitlam streets be part of the plan?
Well, actually, that's within the plan. It talks about those future uses, and you were at the at our meeting there, so you've got a bit of a flavor of it. And I was, to be straight up, very happy that staff have included that as a mode of transportation, because it is becoming, quite popular. I imagine at BCIT, there's lots of people that take scooters and e-bikes to
I do
school.
See them when I go around the school, yes.
Yes, there's lots of them. And so it's becoming a different types of, a new mode of transport that we hadn't seen before. And I think we need to embrace it. I know I was in Europe a few years ago, and the e-bikes, or particularly e-scooters, were really popular. Saw all the benefits, and I could see some real concerns, clashes with pedestrians. There didn't seem to be any true real road rules. So those are the things that have to be worked through. But I think we need to be able to incorporate that into the MPT, which it is, and look at like basic stuff like where can you have the racks for the bikes, and where can the racks be for the scooters. And the shared bikes and stuff, because they take up public space. So I think it's we have had it in the past. We've had some interest. We've had it here. It's been somewhat successful, and some it hasn't been successful. So moving forward, how do we facilitate that?
Oh yeah, and so that may also kind of make sure that there's not a lot of e-scooters being left in non-designated areas. Make sure it's all
I think we probably need to look at that as something, because I've seen them just laying all over the place in different areas, and it just from a safety standpoint, just say someone's finished with it and they leave it in the middle of the sidewalk and walk away. Well, there's more than just that person using the sidewalk, so it's a little careless and unthoughtful of the user. But there also has to be a protocol, I think, is because we haven't grown up with it, right? This hasn't been something we've been raised with, so we don't have those those rules that we're aware of. So but it'll come.
Yeah, and finally, well, after the plan has been fully finalized, do you think this will make like the transportation in the city, as well maybe the city in general, be more sustainable and more like eco-friendly?
Well, I mean, that's always the goal. I mean, when you look at what's the projection for climate change and for sea rise, and they're predicting the temperature rise every day, how that affects how it affects the entire world. That's always part of our conversation. One of the things that's coming along with densification is the whole idea about parking. And you're seeing this change quite a bit, and really, there are developments that are coming up with no parking, that have good public transit. So it really is a big shift from our auto-oriented. Like when I was growing up, that was the idea about taking a bus was like, oh, that's crazy. That's your last resort. To getting in a position where that is what people use, and they just occasionally rent a car to do a trip or whatever. It's a shift. So when we build residential areas that don't have parking, the resident would be aware of that, obviously, from get-go. So that would have to be something they would deal with.
Daryl, nice talking to you. Talk about transportation. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
That was Daryl Penner, City Councillor in Port Coquitlam. And that is For the Record, produced by BCIT's Broadcast and Online Journalism program. I'm Jerison Rashon. Thanks for listening.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikikane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikikane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.